all about. Threw my virtues to the ground, drinking from the devil's cup. Take that pill, drink it down, flashing lights all around. High as hell, drunk like I finally don't give a fuck. 'Cause I'm breaking all the rules tonight. Not going down without a fight. As long as I'm still breathing, doesn't matter how hard you might try. We can take this freedom. Waking up, I'm a mess, sleeping on the bathroom floor. Last night's a blur, don't know for sure, but I'm ready for another round. We're talking shit, don't hear a sound. Take a hit and pass around. High as hell, drunk like I finally don't give a fuck. 'Cause I'm breaking all the rules tonight. Not going down without a fight. As long as I'm still breathing, doesn't matter how hard you might try. We can take this freedom. You try to box me in and chain me down. I can do as I please, so shut your mouth. Sure, my innocence gone and to say what I want. Can't say me cause I'm already gone. Walk around like it's such as hate. That's some shit cause I know that you ain't. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when karma comes and fucks you? Life's a bitch and I plan to make the most of it. Judging me like you some little strokes in the pitch.
Hey guys, this is the Overpass Live. My name's Eric and I make apps. Sorry I'm a few minutes late today. I just rushed back. It seems like I've been arranging things on Friday afternoons lately and been rushing back, getting here just in the nick of time. And I always want to try to reboot my computer and everything in order for there's no processes going on. So I was editing a video earlier today. And normally I don't do the video editing so much on the daily videos, but I was doing like a promo video. And I left it like 3 hours ago rendering, and it was still rendering when I got back, which is probably something wrong with it. So anyway, sorry I'm late. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Can everyone hear me? Let's just see. If you can hear me, say triumvirate. Triumvirate. So if you could, let's see. Fix the name. Oh, thank you. Hi, some fix the name of the live stream. Duh. You know what? Every week. But it wouldn't be the same. If I remembered, it wouldn't be the same. So everybody, hey, hope you guys had a fantastic week. It's actually, the weather's really improved here this week. I started out this week in a piss poor mood. Just like really, because we have a client, yeah, CH can hear you, gangsta. No date script yet. No, Aiden, no, not yet. I need to write one. So I started off this week in just like a mood. So I have a bit of client issues from a few weeks ago, which are pretty much resolved. I mean, not in a good way, but they're resolved. They're over. They should be behind me, but I still, every so often, I think about it. And I just get in a bad mood. I can't sleep at night. And so for the first couple of this week, I was moping around a little bit for the beginning of this week. But then I kind of, you know, the weather got really nice. Spring is in the air. It's really nice out there. And, you know, today I spent the entire day working on a Facebook video. So I've been wanting to do Facebook ads for ages. And it's like I do the daily video, so it should be easy, right? It should be easy just to film a video and post it. But for some reason, that fear kicks in, and then so I've been putting it off. So I finally did it today. So anyway, so hello CH Development, hello Chord Funk, Billy, sup Billy. CH Development. I've noticed what seems to be a new feature on the Google Play Store. On some of the apps, when you view them, it shows that the top 5-star review and the top 1-star review. Don't know if it's new, but it's interesting. I haven't noticed it. I haven't been looking at Play Store very much recently because I've been on a. I mean, I suppose I should, since I moved to an iPhone last year, and since I moved to an iPhone, every time I go to the App Store, which I really don't like, but Play Store is where I make all my money, so I should be looking at it more often. CH Development. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. We're in a position now where we need to have a test device for one of our clients needs. It's an iPhone app, and it has fingerprint recognition. So I have all these test devices around here, like iPhone 5s and old iPads and stuff like that, which usually have been pretty good for testing, but they don't have fingerprint sensors. So I'm thinking about getting a new phone, and I think I'll go back to the Android. I want to go for a Pixel. That's what I was going to get last year, but I went for an iPhone just because I needed an iOS 11 plus device, and none of my devices would upgrade past iOS 10. So I've been living my last year as an iPhone user. And to be honest with you, I don't like Siri. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but the hardware is really good, and it's been really reliable. So, I mean, it has the hardware. I always think this about Apple. I think about the Mac. I think about a lot of Apple things. Hardware, really good. Software, not so much. And I don't like the way they lock you into things, and they don't give you the freedom and flexibility. Mega Man, hey, third, welcome. Hey, Sam, thanks. How you doing? Rodrigo says, I'm at work. My boss doesn't know I'll be watching. Yeah, I hope you're finishing that project, Rodrigo. Let's see. Matthew Harris, hey, how's it going? Roy's here. Is it Roy or is it Mark? I always get confused because it's Mark. It's Mark Ford on some, like on Facebook, and Roy Ford here. Let's see. Mega Man, hey, Eric, do you charge prospects for the quotes if they don't go ahead with the project? No, I don't. And this is this is a good question. I think about talking about this before, and I've thought about it, right? Even then, so I talked about, I was doing an ad earlier today. I put on their free quote, right? Thinking, I don't think anybody charges for quotes. Like, it's, if you want to know how much something's going to cost, is how much it's going to cost. But this is why we focus so heavily on the ballpark figure. So we have, our process is that we have a form on our website, and then also people call, whatever. But the key thing for me is to give a ballpark as early as possible. So I want to give a ballpark so they're not wasting, so we don't spend a whole bunch of time doing a quote for a prospect. So quotes can take hours. They could take ages. So we'll do the flow charts. We'll do the wireframes. Talk about the different technologies we're going to use. I'll have a we'll use this, and this. Try to specify it as much as possible. I'll get my designer to do a mock-up, which I talked about before, the money shot. So I get my designer to do a mock-up and all this stuff. So we hand over the quote, and sometimes we don't hear anything back, and it's like a lot of work for nothing. And because of that, we're really I'm gun shy about bringing new people on. So so we got a new person on the team who's a lot better about asking the hard questions like, do you have the money? Or, how serious are you about this? Because a lot of times, even like a ballpark, I'll give a ballpark and I'll say something like it's going to cost $15,000 or something, or $20,000, whatever it is. Like, it depends on how big the project is, right? It depends on what it is. So it could be $3,000, it could be $10,000, whatever. So I'll give a ballpark, and then a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, that's okay. And sometimes I'll give a high ballpark, especially if it seems like that prospect doesn't really, like, it's probably bigger than they think it is. So I'll give a higher ballpark, and a lot of times they'll come back and say, oh yeah, no, that's fine. I could pay $50,000 or $100,000. I've never done it that high, but one day. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, oh yeah, no, that's cool. And then when you have that conversation and you do the quote and everything, then they say, I'm going to start a Kickstarter campaign, right? It's like, well, the likelihood of you getting a Kickstarter campaign, getting the funds for the Kickstarter campaign that's on them and not on me. And that's one of those little things. That's why, Mega Man, it's really good question. And I have thought about somehow breaking up the phases so that we do charge for the quote, but or at least have like a requirement gathering phase, so that we could charge for the requirements gathering. But I haven't done anything like that. So let's see. Gearoid Mullen says, hi Eric, quick question. How do you know Quick question: how do you know how I report a concern about the review on the USA version of the App Store? I can't seem to find it from Ireland. Report about a review on the USA version of the App Store. So on the App Store, you should be able to respond to reviews. I'm not sure if you can report a review of your own app. Is that what we're talking about, Geroid? I've never actually reported one. I've had bad reviews. I've had bad reviews where they say, this app has a virus in it, or this whatever. But I just kind of took that as, people are going to be jerks, and I just have to make sure I respond to it. So anybody who sees that review will see my response saying, hey, look, there's no virus in this. Hey, look, whatever. So that's what I do. And I just always assumed that you couldn't complain about somebody's review, but it would make sense because anybody can sabotage somebody else's app. So it's something, to be honest with you, I've never even looked into. I don't even know if that's possible to do. Mega Man says, oh, and what are your thoughts on the Galaxy Fold? Is the Galaxy Fold a folding smartphone? I thought it looks very gimmicky. I'm not too. I saw it a few weeks ago, or I think was that CIS where they did it, if I'm thinking about the right one, and I thought it seems a bit gimmicky. Like even the Samsung ones where they wrap around the screen, I think, is that really necessary? Couldn't they do something a little bit more ingenious? I want to have, when they come out with new smartphones, there's one feature that I want, and I want somebody to put it in there, is I want to be able to scan for life signs. I want to have a thing where I just go, like on Star Trek, I could say, okay, there's 3 life signs in the area, or I can see whatever, but I know it's probably not easy to do. But there's lots of things that mobile phones can do or should be able to do, and as an app developer, I'm waiting for that next big feature, that next thing that's really going to push things forward. And being able to fold the phone, I'm not, that doesn't really do it for me. Or have the screen that's bigger, that goes edge to edge, that doesn't really do it for me either from a technical point of view. And the whole new form factors, like the watch was different, right? It was, but I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know about the Fold. I should look into it a bit more. I mean, because I don't think there's anything we could do differently as developers on there, is there? Or I feel like when you ask me about this, that I haven't done Mega Man. I feel like I haven't done my homework. So Azimuth, hey, how's it going? Roy Mark Ford says, in reference to your video on the new error is better than the old, I spent 9 hours on the bug, and then Apple rejected it for the app for an old screenshot. Oh, well, at least that's just it. You could just change the screenshot. At least that's not too bad. When I did the error on the new error is better than the old error, and I said I'd spent 4 hours trying to debug something. I come back and I spent the next day, I spent the entire day debugging it, and I did get the solution done. So I got it solved for the developers, or at least I got it solved for the developers where I say, okay. And it was like, so what it was is we had this, and it's just so, I mean, it was like, let's get too technical about it. So we had an API that we're calling via Postman. The API was doing various things. It was contacting other servers, and it was updating a database, yada, 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 whatever. And I found out that, and every time we called through Postman, we would get a response back that says, like, the password is expired, or the invalid login and password, right? Which was not what the error was. And as I started going through and drilling down, because we'd moved it to a new server, as I started drilling down into it, I found that actually, if I look at the PHP logs, which weren't turned on, if I turn on PHP logging, I can say, oh, we have a bunch of syntax errors in there. So it's, and then I look through it and say, okay, we're actually using PHP 7, and this requires a lower version. So, and I didn't know what version it was because it was handed over from other developers. So we're just going lower, lower, lower until I found it was 5.6. So I went down to 5.3 and then went back to 5.6. It was on a Windows server. And then I found that we had communication issues between one server and another, and then we had loads of other stuff. So it was like almost like pulling a string, and then a whole, like I would uncover something else. Now, if it's just a bug that happens like on a Tuesday afternoon, you don't usually have that. If it was working an hour ago and it's not working now, there's something environmental. But this was something where we took over some new code and just trying to figure out what was wrong with it, and it was a whole day. But the second day that I worked on it, even though I was just I was in the zone. I was in the zone where like I had to go to the bathroom for like 4 hours, and I didn't want to get up because it was just okay. Oh, let me just try this one thing. Let me just try this one thing, right? And it was actually kind of satisfying to get the resolution. That's what it's like when you have a bug, or if you ever had computer problems, right? And you like a blue screen or something, and you think you fixed it, you can relax a little bit, and then it goes again, and it's almost like it interferes with your whole life, right? Like I go home and I just kind of think, God, that bug. What is that bug? You know, I don't want to go back into work tomorrow because I'm not making any progress. I can't do this. I can't do that. I tend to get really, really negative, and then when you solve it, it's like, oh, it's a breath of fresh air. Oh, we get on with our lives again. Oh yeah, you know what? Hey, the sun's out, the blue skies. So yeah, thanks, Roy. So let's see. Matthew Harris says, I said recently somewhere nobody pays for quotes. Then I was told I didn't know anything, and for building work, it is common to have to pay. Never owned a house. That's something to think about. I think when you see, one of the things that I think, Matthew, that I come into it with a almost like a mentality of lack. Like nobody's going to pay for a quote because they just want to know how much it will cost. So you start giving away all these things for free, but sometimes they would, especially if you're worth it. For me, I think if somebody came to me and asked for a quote and I said it's going to cost whatever, £100 or £200, they would go next door or to the next Google listing rather, and they would find somebody who would do the quote for them. So I mean, that's kind of been my fear, but that's not necessary. That fear is not necessarily reality. Like I've never tried it. There was years ago, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, I was looking at other app developers. I was trying to see the competition, right? So I was looking at other app developers in the area, and I found a website, and it was a blog post by I can't remember the company or whatever, but it said the app developer said he's just started charging for NDAs. So if somebody comes to him and they want him to sign an NDA, he charges a fixed fee for it because he can't be spending time going through and sign. You know, what he says is a legal fee. So if you want me to sign your NDA, then that's fine, but it's going to cost. Otherwise, you know, you would sign your NDA. So I've done the same thing since then. Since I read that, I don't refuse to sign NDAs, although maybe we should. My fear is always that somebody's going to give me an app idea and somebody else gives me the exact same one, which happens all the time. Say, nobody's doing this, it's totally unique. And then like somebody says the exact same thing a week later. My fear is that one of them will come back and say, oh, you stole my idea if I'd worked on it for somebody else. And there's been times where I've turned down projects because somebody else, because I signed an NDA with somebody else. But we do, if somebody does come and say, I want you to sign my NDA, and they send it through, I say we'd have to charge for that, and they've never taken me up on the charge, by the way. And I say, but if we do our NDA, then we're happy to do that. So we can send you our NDA. That way, at least I know what's in it. You know, I hate reading through contracts, and I would hate, especially, you know, it's tough enough reading our own contract. I don't know, somebody else sends something new, and I'm thinking, are they going to trip me up with something here? So John Tirrett says, hi, Eric, do you use any build automation system? And if yes, which one? Do you automatically run unit tests, builds, and publish from this system? Thanks for your feedback. Yeah, I do all that stuff. I do the unit tests. I do the continuous integration. I do all that. Okay, so sometimes. So I use Fastlane a lot for but I use it from the command line. Like I don't have it in like, was it Jenkins? I don't use any of that kind of stuff. I have used continuous integration. I've written unit tests in the past. Now I don't. Mainly I'll do a unit test if it's like really complicated functionality. Like if it's something that like I just have to get my head around it and there's all these variables that go through. It's easier to write a unit test and to test that one bit of like that one function or that one bit of code, so you can just make sure it goes again and again, but not to unit test everything like login and if user clicks on this, if user clicks on that. Now I've talked to people who've written unit developer. I've talked to people who write unit tests before, and they say once they get into that mode, that test-driven development mode, it's much faster to do it that way, or it's not faster, but it's faster in the long run because it's automatic. They just do it. But a lot of times when you're just starting out, it slows the process down. A lot of times the developers I work with are not, they're junior developers. So if I started to implement that kind of stuff, it would just cause trouble. Okay, here's an example of one. So we had a client project. This was a few years ago. The developer, I'm not working with these developers anymore. Ugh. So basically, they were doing an app for a client, and they were writing the server. And I wanted to stress test the server. So I said, okay, I want you to run it wasn't a unit test, but I want you to write a test so it can break it. I want to see how many transactions that can handle a second. I want to see if you could put 1,000. How long would it take to run 1,000 inserts through that API, right? And the developer, he did it, and he says, oh, it takes like just a second. I said, okay, cool, right? Later on, when I went and looked at his code, I found that he wasn't even going through the API. He had a SQL statement that was inserting 1,000 records into MySQL, right? And I was thinking, I don't want you to test MySQL. I want you to test the code, right? And it was almost like that say yes to anything mentality that, okay, yeah, no, we could do that, Eric, whatever, I'll put 1,000 records in the database. And so that it was just hard. Sometimes it's hard to get junior developers to understand that kind of, sometimes it's hard to get them to understand why they would use a function, or why they would use dependency injection, or why they would do, why they need to comment their code more often, or check things into Git. And when it comes to unit testing, it's like, I think it is important, especially if you're working on an enterprise app. If you're working on something where it absolutely, positively has to be right, then yeah, unit tests do come in handy. Of course, you can't run, well, you could run unit tests on different devices. So there's the Amazon App Farm. God, what is the, I'm trying to think what the unit test frameworks are for native Android and iOS. Because I know that in, what is it, God, I'm even blanking for the JavaScript one. It's the one that sounds like coffee. Mocha. Is it Mocha? Can't remember. So yeah, to be honest with you, John, I wish I could say yes. I wish I could say yes, I did it the same way I wish I could say I did push-ups every day, but it's not true. So, if I was working for a company, if I was working as a contractor, I would be doing it. But when it's myself and my own money on the line, then we don't do it as often, right? I'd rather spend less time on development and deal with the errors and fix the errors as they come. And I know that sounds naive, and but if it's for a client, it's different. If that's what they want, if they want to pay for that, we could do it. Let's see. Matthew says, yeah, ballpark is high. Otherwise, they never like it when it comes back higher than the ballpark. Yeah, you never, if you're going to give a ballpark quote, you always want to give it, you never want your actual quote to be higher than the ballpark quote. We've done that before, not intentionally, where it's like, so this was, again, another development company working with, I would have come up with a different ballpark. So I gave a ballpark. I confirmed it with the developers. Can you get it done for this? And they gave a lower ballpark. And I thought, well, and I actually lowered my ballpark, which was stupid. So I lowered my ballpark and I gave it back to the client. And they said, okay, whatever. And then the developers came forward and said, oh yeah, no, it's going to cost a lot more than that, right? So I thought, well, that's what I thought, right? But always trust yourself. Like this. So, and it used to be part of the process was when somebody fills in the form, the ballpark would go to the developers and they would give the ballpark, and then that way it takes me out of the loop. And that didn't work because they could not commit to anything without a zillion questions. So you say, I have an app that will allow me to track a fleet of vans who are traveling across the UK, and it should send push notifications to them, and it has a map where I can see where the locations of all the vans are, as a general example, right? Based on that, I would say, I don't know, 15,000, 20,000, whatever. But based on that, and I might go back for a few follow-up questions, but the developers would come back with, what platform is it going to be on? Is it going to, what code should it be written in? Is it going to be, how many vans do they have? Even just irrelevant questions. I want to answer everything. And it was, look, I don't want to go into requirements gathering yet. I just want to I want them to say, this is about how much we think it's going to cost. If you can handle that, then we'll proceed with the rest of it. If you can't, then it's better to know then, right? It's the same way if I walk into a shop and I have no idea if it's a if everything's expensive there or inexpensive there, and I say, how much is this jacket? And they say, it's 300 pounds, then I will calmly put it back on the rack and walk out, right? That's it. I wouldn't expect them to say, well, what are you going to be wearing that jacket for? Are you going to wearing it outside? Why don't you try it on? Why don't you walk around? It wastes everybody's time if they can't afford it. So that's what we do. And that might not be the best way forward, but that's just the way that we do it. CH Development says, I think the initial meeting is free, but the whole mind map thing and mock-ups take time and money. That's right, it does. That all takes time and money. I think there should be at least some kind of cost involved. Yeah, that's true. I think for me, it's always if I got a good feeling that it's going to go through. I mean, sometimes I know that we've lost jobs because it took me too long to do the quote. Like, it's just been this thing I need to do and sit down and do the quote, and they weren't really interested anyway. And sometimes I'll go look through old quotes that I did, which were really good, and then we never heard back from them. So it's but the ballpark is to take the shock out, right? If they're gonna spit their coffee out when you say the price, right? I want that to happen on that first phone call, so they can say, okay, that's way out of my budget, or they can say, okay, that's we can make that work. Let's see. Roy Ford says, I reported some reviews that were just swearing. Guess the students of that class weren't into the lesson. Google removed them. You know what? It never even occurred to me to report reviews. I didn't even. God, you know what? Gotta learn something new every day. Matthew Harris says the next big thing may be more detailed GPS tracking, AR integration. Yeah, hopefully. Actually, what would be the next big feature? Because it seems like everything's just an incremental improvement, and it's hard to come up with things that you think that they should have. There's something I was thinking about the other day that I thought would have been great on part of the mobile platform, but I can't remember what it was. But everything seems to be an incremental update. So Paulo Bream says, hello everyone from Brazil. Hey, from Brazil. Hey, Paulo. Giroy says, many thanks, Eric. Yes, you can reply to a review, and you can also report a concern if you think someone has wrote a false review about your app. Usually the option to do is underneath the review tag. Thanks. Okay, cool. Jennifer's here. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Tim. How's it going? Giroy, but in the USA version, we don't have this option. I'll figure out why. I'll figure it out. Thanks anyway. Sorry about that. Aiden Mack says, I've heard some projects where there was 50% more test code than actual app code. This is the case. I hate to say, because when I was a contractor, I remember trying to get everybody to do things like, especially when I work in a new company, I'd be that annoying guy who says, we should be using some sort of source. It sounds stupid. We should be using some sort of source control. And everybody like, nah. Or we should be writing some unit tests. Nah. We should have some sort of documentation. Nah. Right? And it was the fact that they just discounted it really bothered me, because I would look at professional developers who were like just writing unit tests, and they were just like spin or whatever, and they would tell, we do peer programming where everything we write we have 2 people on it. And I thought, sounds cool, but also sounds expensive. So I think there's a happy medium between the two of them, right? If you have written unit tests, you know what a godsend it is when you're releasing a new version, and you just run through the test suite. You don't have to go through and test everything again, and just it's red green. Right, it's a lot of fun to do it that way, and then you also have to write things in a certain way. This is where like things like dependency injection come in really handy, so that you have your mock objects that get injected into the other objects, so that you're not updating a database, you're not updating live systems and stuff like that. And I know that I've seen when there's that service AppThwack, which was bought by Amazon. They would have the Java unit tests that you could run on multiple devices to test on different devices, which made perfect sense. But I haven't seen that used a lot lately. But yeah, you're right, Aiden. Sometimes you could go too far with testing. I mean, you go too far with automated testing or code comments. I mean, have you ever seen code comments that were more than the code, right? And it's like, it's good, but as the code changes, you should do that. And that's another thing with the developers. When we take on a new project, especially when we take on an existing project and we hand it over to the developers. Okay, so here's the code. I've had a look through it. It looks like it does this, this, and this, right? We just need to get it set up and everything. They say, can you send us a documentation, right? And the answer to that is always no, because there's never any documentation. I know there are some places where they do document all their code, and I'm sure there's a dedicated document reader who will sit down and read everything. And I've worked on projects where they've given me, the project plan was like a 100-page document. A 100-page document. The project manager would go off and they would write this document, and I keep updating it, and they would get all these people into meetings, and they keep doing it. So they write a 100-page document, and I was the only developer on the project, and then she handed me this 100-page document, and you know what? I didn't read it. It was too much, right? It was like, you know, we just summarize it, but it was like, you know, and she would go, okay, I'll go out and update the document. I say, yeah, you go update the document. But it was like, it was too much. It was too much to do. We just had to build the application, because every time something changed, either the document was out of date or whatever. So it just got to be too much. But documentation is important. Unit tests are important. But it can't be, it just can't consume you like that. At least that's my opinion. Right, and I've changed my tune a lot since I started paying for the software to be developed, rather than when I was being paid. And when I was being paid for the software to be developed, I was very big on standards. I was very big on, we need to do everything right. We need to give us the proper amount of time to get this done. When I'm paying for it, it's like, look, just let's get it done. You know, we're spending too much time on this. And this is one thing: if a developer spend more than a day trying to debug an issue, that's when I jump in and say, I want to have a look at that, because it shouldn't. But I've had issues that take me more than a day, but it's like, at least I know I could have a look at it. Right? Sometimes you just have those bugs that are just impossible to find, and it's, you know, and I always go into it thinking, oh, give it to me, let me fix it, right? And then you're looking at it, like 2 days later, you're like, oh man, I'm still, you know, but eventually you'll get there. And sometimes it's just working with a developer who, like, yeah, I've worked at a lot of places. I've worked on desktop apps, I've worked on web apps, I've worked on Microsoft Stack, I've worked on Java Stack, worked at all these different places, all these, you know, and working with network teams and database teams and different types of infrastructures and everything. So a lot of things I'll see that they won't see, right? It's just because of my previous experience. And then, like, I'll think, like, they wouldn't have thought to look at the PHP version, just because they weren't, there was an existing API and they should have been able to know it, and PHP wasn't their thing. They were client-side web applications, client-side app. They're app developers, so they weren't sure how the API and everything worked, and that was kind of my thing to go in there and work on it. But, you know, I could figure it out. Let's see. Roy says, I got a new app on the Play Store, if available, to cast your eye on it. It's called Word Hop and Pop. Should be the first one. Panda and bird on the icon. Cool. Let's have a look. So this is Roy's application. Share my screen. Okay, hop, word hop and pop. Did I do it right? Okay, word hop and pop, making English fun. Is this it? Is this it, Roy? Oh, cool. Word hop and pop, ages 8 and under. Nice graphics. Is this the right one? I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right one. Birdie hop. Cool. How's it doing? I mean, we don't have any reviews yet. When was it? So it was released. Oh, just today. So it was just released today. So cool. Now you've got 50 plus installs. Have you already got 50 installs today, Roy? It looks good to me. Let's have a look at the video. So one thing I would say, and this is, you know, I think it's not that bad, is that the icon is the icon looks good, but even on a big screen, there's a lot of text there, and it's really difficult to see it. Even on a phone, I'm sure it would be really hard to see. So it would just look almost just like colors. And if you were able to remove the text from it, you could have it multilingual if you needed to. So that's one thing that one reason why I don't like to put text on icons is because if we do want to go multilingual. I'm not saying that that's what you're going to do, but so that's cool. Let's have a look. Cool. I think it looks good, Roy. Does anybody else have any feedback on it? Let's see. So I mean, the one thing I think the video looks good and the screenshots are good, and you've got what it does. Listen and catch the floating words, as many as you can, but don't hit the wrong word. Cool. Yeah, Roy, let's have a look at this next week and see how it does after a week. So you're using the full use of the title, word, hop and pop, ABC and phonics game, free, cool. Hop and pop, free phonics game. I know you just put it on here, so it's not going to rank for anything, but cool. Well, phonics is actually there's a lot of phonics names in there. Cool. Or it was just released today, right? Or was that an update? Well, 1.02. Okay, cool. Let's see. Yeah, the icon is small. Wasn't sure about that text either. Yeah, I think you can experiment with different ones. I mean, it's difficult. Every time I say something, it's more my personal preference than anything else, because I know that when you have a lot of stuff on the icon, and when it gets smaller, it's a bit too much. So especially when you got the little icon here and that one. So, but that's just my opinion there. Let's see what else we have. Let's go back to that one. Rodrigo says, instead of unit tests, I started testing everything more often, meaning test variable if wrong value. Yeah, I mean, we have a QA tester who will test things, but some things you just can't tell from the front end. Like, you just have to test it in the back end. So, okay, so here's something. I don't know if I should tell you guys this. So I wrote an API, which was just a mock API. So it's to mimic the production API that's for a client. And the developers are working on it. So every so often, I would just have like 1 out of every 10 times, I would just trigger a random error. So it would say random error, and it would return something that's not HTTP status of 200, right? And I looked at the code, and everything was done. Everything's working. Everything's tested. I look at the code, and it's actually looking for the string random error coming back. If it says random error, then treat it as an error or whatever. Not looking at HTTP status codes, and I was just so sometimes you just need to have the test for the back end of the code, right? If you're gonna have something where the so let's say if you have something, here's a good example. If the network's unavailable, it should store it locally until the network is available, and then it should save it back again, right? If you're testing from the front end, you might not see that. You can't see what it's doing unless you have some sort of something on the screen that is updating it. So, oh, espresso. Yeah, thanks, Tim. It's espresso. John says we use Azure for DevOps and App Center for that. That's great. So I've used Azure. I haven't used Azure very much. So I was like a big Microsoft developer. I wasn't a big. I mean, yeah, I was. I was C#, and when Azure came out, I was really wanted to get into that, and I think I moved away from that just about the time it came up. But I have done. We use Notification Hub on one of the things, and we used Notification Hub, and there was actually quite a lot of documentation on it, using that from Cordova, using an HTTP an HTTP post to when you're to register the push notification. So when the application opens up on iOS and Android, it would get the device ID. It would hold on to it until they register, and then when they registered, it will update their registered user with the push notification ID so that the client could actually send push notifications to specific users. And it sounds simple, but it was like, it took us ages to get that working properly. And then we did get it working, found out we were using the wrong, we were not using Notification Hub, we were using another thing that was a back-end mobile framework. So let's see. Fist007 says, "Hi Eric, I just finished integrating Google Maps in my Xamarin Forms app. Cool. Now I need a code to code a custom renderer to render my overlay on top of the Google Maps. Couldn't you just? Okay, are you gonna do? Does it? Google Maps has a lot of overlays already, doesn't it? You could do pins, you could do little areas and stuff like that. You need to do a custom one, and how are you gonna do it? That sounds like it'd be kind of complicated. You would have to make sure that you have the GPS coordinates of where you're going, and that sounds like it might be complicated. Let's say if I'm doing it here in Oxford and you're doing it over there, you wouldn't just be the pixel position on the screen. You would have to know where it was and calculate that. Let me know how that goes, 007. 007. CH Development says, those bugs that take longer than a day is the best feeling when you actually get the issue resolved. It is. It feels like, yes, finally. You know what's the worst feeling is when you spend an entire day trying to solve a bug and you go home and it's not solved, right? Because you feel like you just wasted the whole day. The whole day, you know, might as well have gone to the movies for all I've accomplished. I might as well have, might as well have just done nothing. Might as well have just stared at the wall. But when you do accomplish it, it's that feeling. What do they talk about when you're hammering at something, like when you're stone cutters is hammering at a stone and it doesn't look like he's doing anything, and then like on the 100th hit it splits open, and it wasn't that last hit, it was all the ones leading up to it. That's the way I think about with debugging something, right? Even though you're going down all these different routes trying to find out what it is, when you finally get it, like, you couldn't have just gone straight there. I mean, you could the next time because you know what it is, but at the time you had to go through that process to get to it. So yeah, it is the best feeling. Hussein says, I work in the defense industry. Awesome. Field tests cost like millions of dollars. The software tests are huge for us. I'll bet. No, when you do something that, okay, so I worked on an application. So I worked on an app once, and this is not a mobile app. This is ages ago. It was an e-top-ups service. So when you get when you have your mobile phone, and if you don't have a contract, you could just top it up. And I worked at a company that did the top-ups. So I wrote this code, and they didn't want to invest in a server or anything like that. They just didn't have a lot of huge budget. So I wrote it in Microsoft Outlook. I think it was Outlook, and it was just something that would listen for the inbox. So they would email in. They were using email as a transport mechanism. It would email in, it would take that email, parse it, top up the phone, and then move that email into the outbox so that it was not parsed again. Now, I remember saying to the owner, if for whatever reason it doesn't move it to the outbox, it will continue to top up that person's phone over and over and over again, and it could be very costly. And they freaked out about that. It was like, we needed to have some sort of testing in place because it wasn't just something we could run. That would be an expensive error. When working in investment banks, we were working on systems where if we made an error, that would be really expensive. It would be far more expensive than taking extra time in development to make sure it goes right. In fact, when somebody says to you like, oh, I think it should take you a lot less time than that, then you have to tell them, yeah, we need to make sure this thing is tested right. We need to make sure security is right. I've had that recently where somebody was complaining to me about timescales, and it was they wanted an update on something, and I said, well, I'll take like 4 hours or whatever. It wasn't me, it was the developers that 4 hours, and they said that should take like half an hour, and they were just really going off on it. It was like, look, this is a web app, and I was like, we have to test it in every browser, we have to do all this kind of stuff, and if you think it's going to take 15 minutes, or if you think it's going to take 30 minutes, then I suggest you guys do it, because we need to make sure that it's right, because it was kind of an important system. but if you're just talking about something like your mobile app that you're releasing to your users, if you have like 100,000 concurrent users or 1 million users, then yeah, you want to make sure you have that thing tested really well. If you have like 5 users, it's you don't want to spend 5 days writing unit tests on it. You just want to get that thing out so you get it looked at and everything. But the important things you should test, right? The things that are going to be costly, things are going to be, like you said, Hussein, the field tests are just going to be too expensive, or if this thing fails in a production environment, it's going to be like bad. So an app idea that comes up again and again, it was I did a video about it, my first app idea, and occasionally I'll get a client who calls me up and they want to do a similar thing, right? Was to have like a personal body alarm. So something that I could just push a button and it will like trigger a sound and email my friends or whatever, saying Eric's in trouble, whatever. The reason I back down from that is because I know how often Android crashes, right? It's the kind of thing where it's the liability of it. If that thing went wrong, it would be disastrous, right? And it's the kind of thing I don't really want to touch something like that. Because you wouldn't just be relying on your code, you'd be relying on the platform, you're relying on other people's code to make sure that they don't make the phone slow or anything like that. So, yeah, it's that field testing. Is how important is that? That's why I like frivolous applications that don't have huge impact for my own applications, but we do some work for some important work for some clients, and then we have to make sure it's all right. So. Jesse says, what has been the most thought-provoking question that someone has asked you on your channel? The most thought-provoking. I think it may have been last week or the week before. Was it Matthew Harris who said, somebody said it, if you had 6 months to learn something and you didn't have anything else to do, you had to learn something, would you learn marketing or would you learn technology? And I thought about it because I thought one of the reasons why we don't learn things is because we don't have the time, right? We're always learning, but one of the big excuses why we don't do stuff, like the reason I don't know machine learning is because I've done some tutorials, but I just don't have the time. So if you were to take that out of the equation and says, look, I'm going to give you 6 months, I'm going to freeze time and I'm going to put you in a room and you have to learn something, what would you learn? That was a really good thought-provoking question. That was one that stuck with me. I was going to do a video on that, but I can't remember who said it, because that takes the time out of the equation. And there's, yeah, I think that's probably it. I think there's that question that you get asked all the time: what would you dare to do if you knew you could not fail? And so I think, what would you learn? What would you learn if you can get what can you do? What would you learn if you had one shot to get that matrix thing in the back of your head, like in the Matrix, where you just learn a new skill? What would you do, and how would it help you? And then you can see how important it is. So for me, like marketing is important, but it's kind of one of those things I think everybody should be able to do. Everybody should be able to do a bit of marketing, whereas technology is something only. I mean, I think everybody can learn technology, but a lot of them, well, maybe not. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's necessarily the smartest people who learn technology, but maybe you have to have a certain type of brain, right? You have to be able to think through things, to be able to focus and concentrate, and also to not give up, and you're chasing things through. And that's the one thing, when I was lost in debugging, doing the troubleshooting the other day, it was like I couldn't even explain what I was doing anymore, because it was like I tried this, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this. I mean, and so I'm basically poking things around. I'm like changing variables to see what happens, right? Let's mess some things around. Let's throw this against the wall and see what it breaks. Let's give it if I give it something, so I'll give you an example. So I'm passing in a login and password, and I'm getting, every single time, I'm getting the same error back. So either the login and password are actually incorrect, or let's try this. Let's try to send it with a login and no password. Let's try to send it in with definitely the wrong login and password. Let's try to pass it in with no parameters at all and see if we get the same response back. And if we do, we know that there's something definitely wrong there. And it's just seeing how all that kind of stuff works. Let's see. Sandeep Bandara, he says, hey, Eric, suppose you stop the client work from tomorrow onwards. Do you have the confidence that you will be able to build the company Overpass based on your own app or game ideas? That's a thought-provoking question. Sandeep. I don't know. I don't know if I would have the confidence. One of the reasons why we do the client work, because it would be fun. It would be fun to try. I mean, one of the nice things about doing, I was able to do the apps that bring in passive revenue because I had a job, because I wasn't stressed and concerned about that. I mean, I had a job, so I was always busy, but I was also able to, like, I was able to fail at stuff. I was able to try new things out, right? When we do client work, we can't fail. So but we also get the guaranteed revenue. When you do your own application, whenever somebody tells me that they're going to quit their job and write their dream app, to me that's scary, right? It's like you need to see what the market's like. You know, you need to put that out there. You can be 100% confident in your app idea, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. So I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think I have the confidence in anything to just do one thing, and so I'm kind of hedging my bets with the client work. So, yeah. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I admire developers who can just work on their, who just work on their own apps and not do anything for clients. And for a while that was me. And I tell you what, there's been times where we haven't had any clients and we just did our own applications, just put stuff out there. And I get to the point where, with what happened with Apple 4.3 errors, where I can't just keep releasing applications without them saying, oh, you're releasing too many, or you need to consolidate all these into different ones. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I would. I would be okay. I think I would be okay. But it depends. So to be honest with you, Sandeep, yeah, I would be fine. Actually, think about it. And I look at this from time to time because I have my revenue already come from the apps. So, but the thing is, my expenses now, because I've got employees, I've got the office, I've got the car, I've got all this stuff that goes out. That's the thing that does. So I have to make a certain amount of money just in order to survive each month, even though I have like whatever, 3,000 pounds in passive income that comes in every month. I still have to do others because I'm trying to build something bigger than that. But every so often in my moments of weakness, I look at, what if I just closed the office, closed everything down, just went to live at home. I just sat and worked on my own applications. The only thing I would need is a designer, because I can't do that. And maybe I could learn that. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like it's not a very good answer. Jesse says, can you white label with schools? Oh, we're talking about, is this about the word hop? Yeah, the icon is small. So yeah, if you could white label for schools, that would be cool. Or have a login for schools to use so that they could test so they have so kids can log in how to use it. App Masters, what's up? Steve P. Young is here. Is he still here? Has he left? Steve P. Young. We have greatness in the room. Steve, are you still there? Oh, look at me! I'm all excited. Like I say, I watch Steve's videos from time to time. Let's see. CH Development says, I think own apps is a nice way for extra or passive income, but I am not sure in a normal scenario it is easy to just go off on our own apps. I think it is, but you also have to look at your expenses, right? So for me, it's hiring other people so we can handle the client work. When I hire other people, then I need to bring on more client work, and it builds and it builds and it builds. But if I could just move someplace, well, I've showed you guys my revenue. I think I would be fine. It would be nice just to sit down, and occasionally the idea does just sit there and just write my own apps and release them, and just focus on that. But to me, that wouldn't be very much fun. It would just be, I like the idea of working with other developers. They can produce faster than I can. They can, because they're focused on it. I could look at other things like marketing. I could look at other ways to do the business and everything. So yeah, That's right. That's where I am. So, hey, we've answered all the questions. We're early today. Okay. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for showing up on the live stream. Hey, thanks, Steve P. Young, if you're still there, for showing up. So everybody, you guys have all probably know Steve from his channel, Masters. It's whereas I experiment with things on the ASO side. He's like the scientist, so he always shows numbers on how that kind of stuff works. Oh, we got some questions here. Let's see. Last one. Let's see. No, two more questions. Wawaru Kamau says, as a contractor, should I fire a rude and disrespecting client? Have you fired a client before, and how did you do it? I've never actually done it. I wish I could say that I had, but I think I'm kind of this is the confrontation. What I will do is I'll leave a contract, right? I'm just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. Yeah, and you definitely should. You should not put up with that. We did a video about that before. We talked about you do not go in. If they see you as a resource to boss you around and say, just get this done, that is not the contract you want to be in. You want to be the hero that comes in and saves the day. Because as a contractor, that's what you are. You're the guy who comes in there and fixes that problem for them. And if they're going to treat you bad or be really rude to you, then yeah, you don't need to have that. You got other options. You have other places you can go. I would not... I think I just don't. I would not just say, that's it, I'm out of here. I've never done that, but I know people who have. And I always think, I just never burn my bridges. Never burn my bridges, and I'll just politely say, yeah, you know what, I just want to move on. It's coming. And this is another reason why I won't take on a long contract. Right, when I was contracting, I occasionally would take on a 6-month contract, but my favorite were 3-month contracts. Because 3 months was like, they had to always be nice to you, right? They knew your contract was coming up for renewal, and and that's how it goes. So, Glenn Ferris says, "Hi Eric, do you reply to your user reviews on the App Store?" Not on the App Store. I do on Google Play. Do you thank good reviewers? Do you try to explain to bad reviewers? Every time I try to explain unfair bad review, I get no response. So I don't do it on the App Store, mainly because the interface on the App Store is just so complicated, right? You have to go to every single country, to every single user. Like, it's no easy way to do it. On Google Play, it's easy. Everything's just right there. All countries, everything. So we do that. We do. I used to do it all myself. Now I've got Rowena, who works on our team. She goes through and she'll answer all the reviews. And if there's anything that comes up that's like, like a real bug, she'll raise it to me. But mostly, yeah, she'll thank everybody for the good review. She'll say, I'm sorry you didn't like it, if it's a bad review. Just something to, because they've taken the time to leave a review. The least you should do is respond to it, right? And show that you care. You're taking it's not just some empty app out there. Now, we should do it for Apple's App Store too. But the reason we don't is because I hate that interface. I hate using iTunes Connect. Oh, sorry, App Store Connect. Oh wait, Fist007 says you didn't see my messages. Oh, let me go back and look at it. Did I miss some questions? Let me go back. You guys, I think I might have gotten Techno Joe. Oh, Techno Joe. Sorry guys, I skipped a whole section. All right, sorry about that. I skipped a whole bunch. Let's see. Can you white label schools? Mega Man 2016 looks like your bubble bath gameplay. I noticed that, Mega Man. But that's okay. That's like, that's fine. It was there's only so much you could do when you do language games. Let's see. What icons? Okay, so let's have Geroid Mullins says, hey Eric, just to let you know that Apple have the option of report a concern with customer review removal requests from within the App Store Connect. I just found it now. Cool. To be honest with you, I don't even look at the Apple reviews because they're so hard to see. It's just, I wish that the App Store would have the same kind of reviews that Google Play has. I just want to go to one place and see it. In fact, I wish Google Play had one place where I could see all reviews for all applications, but that's not the case. Let's see. Jesse, what do you think about the new Samsung folding phone? I haven't seen it. I saw it at CIS when they were talking about folding phones, and to me it seemed gimmicky. Like, I could just see it being a problem. Like, after 6 months or after a year, you've got problems with pixels or just not looking right. But maybe I'm Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see the reason for it. I think it's kind of thing where every time you got it out, people say like, you know, I just think it's weird. Mega Man 26 said, "Hi Eric, do you use Docker or containers? VM suits me fine, but it feels like I'm falling behind the curve, and I have to learn it." I've used Docker. You know what? I've never used Docker. I have never used Docker. And when it comes to containers, I use like Heroku and stuff, which is not the same thing. I had a developer working for me once, and he was always using Docker, so he was always setting these things up. And he was trying to explain it to me, and I was just kind of like, I wasn't that interested in it. But it sounds like a really good thing. So it's like being able to take so if I understand it correctly, is that you just could set up your environment like really quickly and run it in Docker, so you're not have to set up a whole virtual machine and install everything on it. Let's see. Gabriel says, "Did you already do something with Flutter?" Last week. So last weekend, or no, there was one day last week. No, it was earlier this week. I spent the afternoon working on Flutter, but it wasn't so much that I had It wasn't so much that I was producing a project. It was more like I was just playing around with it. I was just trying to go through. We have a project that it was every so often I'll sit there and I'll look at some of my existing apps and think, I'm going to rewrite this whole thing. And then I'll start on it for a few hours like, that's it. I'm just going to rewrite it. No more Corona SDK. I'm going to rewrite this thing in Flutter. And then I don't do anything. I just like, or I'll do it for like 4 hours. And then I'll realize how big the task is in front of me. So that was kind of what I had done. Rick Calvert says, "I always seem to find the bug after a good night's sleep." Yeah, that's true. I find it when I go to the bathroom. That's where the bug is. The bug's in the bathroom. Android support, you made it. Hey, glad you're here. Techno Joe, I got to your question. Sorry about that. All your apps passive income, what percentage is IAP and what percentage is ads? And what are you doing to increase the lower percentage volume? So most of it is, actually I suppose it's about 50. It's about 50-50. It's about 50-50 if you include, actually no, it's about 2/3 is from ads, and about 1/3 of it comes from purchases and in-app purchases from Google Play and iOS combined. So if you look at my previous daily revenue report, and it's pretty low at the moment, that's basically what it is. Now, a couple weeks ago, or last week, based on an email I got from, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name, but we talked about having higher price in-app purchases. And so I raised the price of everything on Ear Agent, the in-app purchases, and the Pro version, and I see that it's still stayed consistent. Like I'm getting less downloads, but I'm making the same amount of money. So that's something I'm playing around with. And it's the first time in like over a year that I've actually played around with pricing. So that's something there. That question was by that Jesse, the 6-month thing. Cool, thanks for that. Fist007 says, you need to be specifically wired for technology. Yeah, maybe. Let's see. What we got here? So sorry I missed all you guys' questions. And Sandeep says, "Lol, I was typing a question thinking it would be a lot of time to reach the end. Eric just skipped to the bottom. Sorry about that. I missed my thing there. So it's difficult. If I had somebody in here to moderate with me, I'm sure it would be a lot easier. I appreciate your guys' sticking with me. All the I'm fumbling around, reading questions. There's nothing worse than watching a grown man try to read something. Let's see. Carol VDW. Do users ever update their reviews after you've responded? Yes, they have. In fact, we've had 1-star reviews go to 4-star reviews because we responded to it. Yes, they do. So that's why I think we wrote an article about it. It's definitely worth doing. So just because they know that somebody's listening, and that was on Google Play. Ferris El Farisi says, which platform is good to promote my apps? Facebook ads, AdMob, or something else? It depends on how much money you have. Facebook ads is more targeted if you can make it work. If you're making enough from your apps that spending $1 to acquire a user is you can still make $2 from it, then that's perfect. But most of the time, especially if we're doing ads as revenue, that's not enough. Facebook is too expensive when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, so I'll use AdMob, and it's AdMob actually doesn't do. It's actually through AdSense or AdWords. It's through AdSense, so you can do Universal App Campaign, or you can just do whatever. But it used to be you can do it straight through AdMob, and I go in there for the lowest bid. I like one cent per click, then 2 cents per click, just whatever it is, until I start getting some impressions, and I just go low like that. But with Facebook, it's always a lot more expensive. Be Smart says, "Hi Eric, tell us about expansions files libraries. I use it in my app. It looked weird. It have many problems and many methods deprecated." So we use expansion apps in some of our games, and I tried that out. So it was we're using Corona, and I did it in terms of had the latest expandable zip. What I found difficult was whenever I release an update, doing that way too. It got a bit complicated in the end. I just thought, screw it. It wasn't that big. They were like 30 megabytes, these applications. And so in the end, I just went the other way. Now, I know that we've got the app bundles now on Google Play, and that's something that I haven't used yet. Presumably with app bundles, or from what I've read about it, because I'm not using it, you could just have smaller APK sizes because it only downloads what it needs. So if you have one resolution size, it only downloads that. If you have a different languages, it only downloads that. But I have not used that yet. So let's see. Chordfunk says Flutter is awesome. Gaming Trev says, Gaming Trev, that's a cool name. Hi Eric, thank you for all your awesome videos, and I am a silent fan. Lol. Good. Thanks. You guys are subscribers. My subscriber count has gone down a little bit. It hasn't gone down, it's just like the rate of acquisition has gone down a little bit. So just these little things. Just had a question. My AdMob AdSense account was terminated today. Have you ever had that experience? I don't know why though. I have not. I've had apps suspended. I've had apps. I've had AdMob stop apps, stop serving ads in apps, and I've never had a suspension through AdMob, but I've had suspensions in Google Play. And normally what I'll do is I'll just update the app and then resubmit it. But if your whole account has been terminated, I haven't heard of that. I mean, I'm sure that it happens. Have you tried some other ad networks? Because at least Google Play is the biggest market in town, but AdMob is the biggest ad network. But if you could do something like AppLovin or Facebook Audience Networks or one of the other ones, at least you have another way to go through. In fact, if you use something like, all right, what's the other? All right, guys. Oh, I feel like maybe I'm just getting old. What's the other ad network that has mediation? Like the popular one. I'm thinking MobFox, but it's not MobFox. It's another one. Let's see. Omega Doom says, have you ever considered splitting your apps into different developer accounts instead of under Overpass? Any reason you don't? I've thought about it. The only reason I haven't is because it just seems kind of sleazy to me. Like, I think, mainly because I've talked to other developers in the past who've done it, and they've set up like different bank accounts, different logins, different everything, and it just seemed like it would be complicated to keep track of all that. So I like to keep it all with one, although I think it's something that I said this before, I'll say it again. Google Play should just allow you to have multiple accounts. That way you have one payment method, but you have different brands. Like if you have one group of apps targeted at children, that should be separate from your ones targeted towards adults, because it all shows up on the same developer platform. And the same way that as a YouTube person, I can have multiple YouTube channels. As a Facebook user, I can have multiple pages. I should be able to, as a Google Play developer, I should be able to have multiple app stores. Dario, thank you very much for the €2. Jesse, do you have any subscription apps? Not yet. Nope, I don't. But one day. That's the one thing I think. I've thought about taking one of my existing apps and making it into a subscription app, just because I like the idea of the recurring revenue, but I haven't done it yet. So. TechnoJoe's Chart Boost, Mopub. Is it Mopub? It might be Mopub. You mean Startup? No, not Startup. I don't like Startup. Just Vungle. Vungle's more the video one. You guys should start naming stuff. So okay, cool. So I think we got to the end of the questions. Thank you so much, guys. If I missed anything, first of all, if I missed anything, It's pizza time. Yeah, we're not having, I think we're gonna have pizza tomorrow night. So tonight's actually gonna be just, I don't know what's gonna be. So, but yeah, pizza time. All right, thanks everybody for showing up to the live stream today. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow on the daily video, and we'll do this again next week on the live stream. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Taking this blindfold off to see what this life's all about. Threw my virtues to the ground, drinking from the devil's cup. Take that pill.